right, guys, welcome back to the Command Your Brand Show. I'm your host, Josh Silvestro, brand ambassador of Command Your Brands, where we help CEOs and founders get on top-rated podcasts. Check out our book that we have on our website. It's called the Command Your Brand book, and we actually go a lot of details about how to be a guest speaker, who we are, what we do, and how we can help you get on podcasts. Definitely check us out at bestpodcastbook.com. All right, so today's episode, I have a very special guest who actually, we kind of spoke a little bit before this call, and I was kind of really interested because he's in the real estate, and I'm just so curious about like how people make it in that area. And one of the things that's really interesting about him is that he's also worked in technology, which, I know a lot of people have, and a lot of people are very good at, and I'm personally a fan of technology, and he was in it for 13 years. So I'd like to introduce you guys to Alex Burch. Alex, thanks for joining the show, man.
Hey, thanks, Josh. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So I guess we'll first start off for, obviously people who want to get to know a little bit about yourself. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and then also why you started your company?
Yeah, for sure. So Alex Burch, and I'm founder of Veritas Equity Partners. That's our real estate business. And I am based in Kirkland, Washington, which is right outside of Seattle. So out here on the West Coast.
Wow.
And yeah, been in the real estate game for 15 years. Simultaneously, was in tech for a lot of that, like you said. But about a year and a half, 2 years ago, went all in on real estate and founded Veritas. And here we are.
Wow. And just out of curiosity, how did the transition from going from technology to real estate, like how did that whole process work? So I'm so curious. Like you went to technology, which is probably a huge field, and then all of a sudden you did a 360 into another field. I'm just so curious about that.
Yeah, it was kind of a slow burn, honestly, because I had been in both for so long. So I was mostly selling software for a bunch of different companies in my 20s. The last gig that I had, I was at Amazon Web Services, AWS, running a region out there. But along the way, I was buying apartment deals for myself and my family on the side. So it was just something that I had been doing. I got into it when I was young. I was 22 when I did my first acquisition and started buying these things. So I had been in that game for a long time. But in terms of transitioning out to be all in on it, yeah, that took some confidence, I guess, and it was scary, to be honest.
Yeah.
So to leave the stable, W-2 life, especially when you're at a big shop like Amazon or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That was definitely a mental thing to figure out, but super happy that I did. So it's been good.
Yeah. And just out of curiosity, because I'm always curious, like I think one of the people, and you mentioned this before, which people are scared to transition from their job that they have to like their own business, which is, some of them are doing well and maybe they're like trying to get there and they're on their way to, but they're again scared to shift over to that actual, like what was your thing that just made you decide, I want to just do this full time. I want to quit my job. And what got you that hump, like to that next level on real estate?
Yeah. It was a lot of encouragement from mentors. So, and that really is how I got into this and learned a ton about it and kept going and grew along the way as well, was just having really, really phenomenal mentors. So, they were in my ear as long ago as maybe 5, even 10 years ago about needing to go all in on this real estate thing because I was good at it. I had figured out a good little model that worked. But coming from a family with no entrepreneurs, no business owners, it was quite a mental hurdle. I didn't expect it to be that way, but just really, really good encouragement from really successful people that I trusted and had been rolling with me for 10 plus years. Really, it was a huge motivator.
Wow. And so what was there money? Like, is there always money backed with that, or that was just like the decision that just really got you to just do it?
No, no money back with it. So it was just pure relationships that I'd built over time. And, these guys and gals were they've been there, done that, 30 years ahead of me in terms of their career swing and had built really great real estate businesses. So, I just stayed in their ear and stayed close for years. And, dropping out of consistent income to go build your own thing is obviously there's a curve to that, right? In terms of immediate money and all of that. But if you do it right, you can, it's amazing. It's been super, super fun and really successful so far. And I don't see that stopping anytime soon. So I'm really glad I did it.
Yeah. I think it's also cool too that I just see a lot of like yourself and just others just making the leap forward to actually do the actual action, and I think sometimes it's sort of a process. Like you sort of have the, like when you get bad news, it's like a process you have to swallow a little bit and then just actually go for it. Cause I think it's all about life and just, you have to just jump for it,
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And again, looking back, I was like, wow, I way overthought that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as big of a deal as I thought, just jumping in and then being all in on something. And it's been so freeing too, quite frankly, like mentally. So, the last year and a half, it's like I'm super busy. We're doing a lot of cool stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like there's so much less, I don't know, mental burden going on because you're not having to juggle multiple things.
Right.
I didn't realize how much of that I was doing over the 13 years prior to that.
Right. And so just out of curiosity from the standpoint of real estate, 'cause I know real estate in different areas that go kind of all over the place. What do
Yeah.
what are the challenges that you find in actually this area of real estate? Like what do you find is for you the challenging steps for you?
Yeah, so we only buy multifamily. So we only buy apartment deals. That's it.
Mm,
We only buy in certain pockets in our state, Washington State, and we have a pretty defined thesis in terms of where we live. So
mm,
we're not going out there experimenting, trying a bunch of different stuff. So we've had a really good opportunity to kind of pressure test everything over 15 years. So I built a portfolio that was worth about 30 or 35 million bucks
wow.
before I left tech. Um, so there was a good base there. But then, that took, yeah, 13 years. The last year since we put together Veritas and started doing this in raising investor capital and just kind of scaling the thing that I was already doing, we've bought 15 to 20 million bucks worth of stuff. So like the hockey stick is happening, but I think that's just from all the learnings. So there isn't necessarily like a host of new challenges that happens all the time. I think it's just staying in your lane. I think it's discipline in terms of not trying to go chase the shiny thing. A lot of people do that in real estate is they'll go chase markets because people are moving there. Like COVID did a lot of that. There was a
For
lot of
sure.
movement out to Arizona, to Texas, like to these different markets. And then these different fund managers or syndicators, they go out and they buy deals in these markets and they didn't really know them. Like it was just more like, hey, all these people are going out there. There's got to be an opportunity here. And some people did well out there, but there's a lot of people kind of left holding the bag on a lot of those deals now because they just didn't buy with fundamentals and they didn't kind of stay in their lane in terms of what they knew and understood. So I think the biggest thing that we've learned over the years is just to do what we know really, really well and just do it over and over again.
Yeah. And I guess for you, because you obviously started from scratch, like you just started from the
Yeah.
bottom up pretty much, right? And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people, especially who are just kind of going to real estate for the first time, they have no concept of what things are, what they do. Like, what do you tell people for people who are just really trying to get it for the first time and they don't want to make they don't want to make huge mistakes in terms of
Yeah.
investing, what to scale, what to do. Like how did you actually develop and create a wealth of just real estate? Like how did you
Yeah.
what created that success for you?
I was just incessantly curious as a kid, like high school, college. I just was deeply, deeply curious about money. So I was talking to a ton of people and just trying to figure out like what should I do with my life, like what should I, what career should I
Mm.
pursue? Like I didn't know, so I just was asking anybody that I thought had money, like what they did and
Yeah.
what they would do if they could do it over again, whatever that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I think the the best thing you can do is to just talk to as many people as you possibly can. Be just wildly curious, ask a bunch of questions, and then start learning yourself and what you're good at and what your talents are, and then try to find a marriage there somewhere. But I think the biggest thing, and I don't remember where I heard it years and years ago, but it's like this 80% rule that I kind of live by. It's like if you're 80% sure, or 80% confident about something, you just go do it, and then you
Right.
sort out the other 20 as you're going. And like nothing's ever going to be perfect, right? But like if
Yeah.
you're 75, 80% sure, you just send it. Like you just go and try. And
Right.
that's kind of, I think it's the only way to do anything. But especially something involving money
Yeah.
is to just get confident enough and then know that you're going to figure it out along the way.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too, because I know you've obviously built systems and things that actually help with scaling those things. Like for you obviously don't have to tell me your secrets. I mean, unless you want to,
Oh, no.
but,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
No
you can,
secrets. Yeah.
exactly. But I would
Yeah.
love to, I'm just curious, like for people who are out there, like, could you give like 5 good tips you think in terms of scaling a real estate business? Like what you would do if you were to start over again, what you would
Yeah.
actually do?
Yeah, I think it's funny because when I first started, I had not a single system or person or anything, to help. So I was doing it. I mean, I was collecting checks literally like with my hands, and I was collecting quarters at buildings that had coin op washing machines, in Ziploc bags, and like doing all of that completely solo. Um, got to a place where I could start outsourcing some of the property management and all that, but it wasn't for probably 7 years. I was doing all that all of it for 7, 8 years. Um, in terms of systems and like or teachings, I guess if I could go back in time, like what I would do is I would probably try to find I've always been good about finding mentors, and people that I could ask questions to and people
Yeah.
that, would be good sources of information for me, but I didn't seek partners,
Mm,
like that's not, I didn't have that. So like, I really have just been running solo until about a year and a half, 2 years ago when I partnered up with my now partner and we put together this business. Now we have a ton of partners and I'm learning that's the secret to growth. But, 22-year-old me, I would have preferred to find like me now, and then found a way to provide value for somebody that had a machine that's already working and then just scale from there. And I probably would have taken 5 or 10 years off the growth curve, I guess.
yeah. And it's kind of funny too, because I know some people think like this. I don't know if you do. Like, what got you in terms of real estate? How did you find the perfect niche for yourself? How did you find what direction in terms of real estate you should go? Because I know for a lot of people who do real estate, they're like, wow, I just want to do real estate, but they're like,
Yeah.
there's so many different things in real estate that people don't
Yeah.
really know about. Like,
Yeah.
how do you find and identify an untapped market? Like, where do you go in terms of that
Yeah.
direction?
So I don't think there's such a thing as an untapped market. So I think you could start by not trying to find one because it's impossible and you'll just spin wheels forever.
Yeah.
I think figuring out your risk tolerance and what you appreciate is important. So, like for me, I like really conservative things that produce good results.
Right.
Like that's just kind of how I've always been wired. I'm a bit of like an old person in that perspective. Like I feel like I just want things to be steady Eddie, but I also want them to be better than the stock market or whatever it would be in terms of returns. So for me, just again, talking to a bunch of people, multifamily apartment building investing made sense to me. Like
Mm,
just 12-month leases, people living in these units. It's not, there's no turn and burn, there's no flips, there's no construction. I mean, there's some, right? Like with rehabs and things, but we're not building things, we're not permitting things, we're not converting things, we're not doing any of this stuff that is kind of like I said earlier, like the shiny object thing. It never made sense to me in terms of how to scale that.
mm,
So my big perspective was like, what do I want out of this? I want to create like generational wealth. I want to have something that's really predictable. I don't mind if it takes a while to grow. It went faster than I expected. I
yeah.
mean, there was a really good run there, and I kind of had figured out a little model that worked really good. But even if I was 80% smaller than we are today, I'd still be super happy with where I was, and it still makes sense to me. It's the right business. So I think understanding your appetite for risk, like what's going to keep you up at night, those types of things, and just being really honest with yourself about like,
Yeah.
should I take this on? Should I not take this on? Like, am I wired for this?
Yeah.
And then just talking to as many people as you can.
Right. What were some key like questions you should ask yourself or like key things you should ask a mentor? Because I think, some people don't know where to start in asking questions about things. Like like when you went to a mentor and you were like,
Yeah.
I have these burning questions. What were the burning questions? Just because, people who are
Yeah.
listening, I may not know.
Yeah. What would you do if you went back in time? Same thing you just asked me.
Yeah.
I also have found particularly successful people. If you are somebody that is hungry, or motivated, respectful, like all of these things that just make up like a good human being. I mean, I can't even remember a time that I've been turned down by somebody that I asked for coffee, or whatever, like just to ask for advice, and I say that I'm like, I just want to pick your brain. You seem like you got a cool life. I would just like to learn what I can from it, like, and just ask you some questions. And it's like very, very rare that somebody would have a problem with doing that
Yeah.
if you just come about it honestly and authentically, right? So, just literally getting them to kind of digest their life, teach you. It's almost like you learn more from their mistakes,
Yeah.
and they can tell you that, like what should you not do, like as opposed to what should you do, like what are the pitfalls that you should watch out for, like those types of things. And it just saves you a bunch of time.
Yeah. I bet.
Yeah.
Are there lessons that you learned over time that you like, man, I should have done this, or I should do this instead? Like if you were like, for people who are listening, people who are like, just, I have no idea where I'm going and like how to do this. Like what lessons did you learn in terms of, what you were able to scale?
Yeah. So a huge one is going back to that when you said earlier, what would you do if you were younger? And I said I
Mhm.
would partner.
Mhm.
That also comes with a dual edge, like it's a double sided sword of like you have to partner really well,
Yeah.
because you can put yourself in really bad spots by over partnering or not vetting the person or not being aligned with the person or whatever. So, I mean, there's even like organizational psychology books you can read on like how to partner effectively and
Right.
what attributes you have, what you should find, what makes sense, what doesn't, like all of these types of things. And but that was one of my longest term mentors taught me and said really early. And this guy's got, I mean, an 800 employee property management company, like a $600 million real estate fund, like really, really successful guy. And he taught me just, partner really, really almost like ruthlessly, like only pick somebody that you could literally see yourself doing this with for 40 years. Like don't think of it as a short-term deal and be really, really picky.
Right.
Because he had some experiences in the past that were tough for him just from partnership stuff. And everybody does these things. So that's not, unique or anything, but it's made me really, really selective and like thoughtful about who I partner with. And I almost have like a totally different perspective on when I'm looking for people to join Veritas and work with us. When I partnered with my now business partner, Lauren, like I'm not looking for the traditional thing. Like I'm looking for more of like a psychology fit, like a personality fit, like a skills and attributes fit, as opposed to like, what do you do now? What do you know how to do? It's like, we can all learn this stuff, like it's
Mm.
nothing is that complicated, so it's less to me about what you know now and more about like, what are your core attributes and like, how is this going to work for us together and that kind of stuff. And it's worked well so far.
Nice. And then when I'm just out of curiosity too, because I know, obviously wherever you live, it's always different in terms of real estate and how things work and the rules and the laws, right? How do you find, like when you find a partner or even just when you buy real estate, like when you buy an area, how do you know it's the right fit for you? How do you know it's the right fit? Because I know sometimes people buy things and it's like some people just buy it and it's like the absolute worst mistake they've ever made in their life.
Yeah, this is where I think having, whether you have mentors, advice givers, friends in the game, or an actual partner, like asking just questions to see around corners is super important if you haven't done it before. But once you have done a few things, you just kind of start to realize like, oh, I'm good at this. I don't like this. This is where I want to stay. Like for us, for example, we only buy in like three particular counties in Washington state.
Mm.
Like that's it. And we get deals sent to us all over the place. I mean, we're looking at Idaho, Oregon, Arizona, Texas, Florida, the Southeast, like constantly getting deals sent to us. And we don't even look at them if they're not in these markets that we just know and operate really well in and believe in for like all of the fundamental reasons that you would choose somewhere to buy. Right. But
Mhm.
we just stay really, really tight in terms of what we do, regardless of like what gets sent. And that also reflects really well. Like now we're raising investor capital. We've raised like $8 million in the last, I don't know, 10 or 11 months to do these deals from individuals, right? And when we sit down and meet these people, they also acknowledge and appreciate that. It's like we're not swimming outside of our lane. We know the markets that we're in really well. We know the type of buildings that we're buying really well. And we're just going to rinse and repeat that as long as we can.
Yeah. And I'm also just, it's funny is like looking at these places, I know, like, obviously I'm not super familiar where you're from, but, like for here, for example, I know tax is a big thing, especially because I'm from Jersey. The New York area is like, it's super high tax for any property that you have. And it's kind of interesting. I think some people, you know, don't know certain things or they don't have the right information about what to do. Like for you as a business owner, but also as a, who buys property and like, handles all that real estate, what gives you like, what implementation would you say that you have the information that makes you decide this is right for me, this is not right for me? Like how do you decide on those?
This is where it's clunky in the beginning for anybody starting out because you don't know, right? And you haven't
Mm.
really built out your thesis yet or like your business model.
Mhm.
But once you get to a place where you do have it built out, like for us, for example, we stay in these particular pockets. We only look for buildings that have certain operational efficiencies, 10, 15% light on rents, not big value adds. I mean, like I could like list literally like the punch list of it needs this, 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 the deal needs this, 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 and then we'll go buy it, and if it's missing any of these things, we just pass.
Mm.
Like, and it takes reps, and it takes like having done it to kind of learn like what matters, what doesn't, what really matters, what's kind of gray, those types of things. But you only get that if you've done the same thing enough times, right? So
Right.
this is where I would say like finding a focus, sticking with it as long as it's working, and then just trying to become like the best at that thing in whatever market that you're at is really our goal.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. Like I imagine you have a whole group of people that actually help you in finding and locating and buying all these. And I'm sure it's not just, I feel like now it's not just you anymore. It's more like you have a whole team that does it,
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah. So I would say there's probably over 150 people that are involved in like our business, right? Like they're not direct employees, but it's partners, it's brokers, it's families that we bought from in the past. It's title people, it's insurance people. It's like all of these that we just have, again, the system now. So it really is like, if if I could give one, again, if you're trying to do a real estate company like this, like an investment fund or something, like the bigger you get, the easier it does get. Like there's more administration, there's more operations, like for sure, and that can be a real pain. But in terms of the actual business, you do get the scale is a huge advantage. And so I feel like we're at the precipice of that. Like we're, 55 million bucks under management or so, which is, sounds like such a massive number. And I know that it is a good number, but I mean, there's groups out there with billions of dollars in assets under management, right? Like it's like, there's no real ceiling to this game. So, but I could just feel it in terms of like, yes, now we do have members of our team. We do have employees. We do have a bunch of partners that are very financially motivated to help us because we provide them with a lot of money and opportunities by doing business with them. So yeah, it definitely is like a village of people running it now, but it was not that way for probably 10 years,
Right.
and I would say it didn't feel that way until we had, or just, I guess just me, until I had 15, 20 million bucks in apartment deals, which again is like a lot, like, especially to somebody that's not in the game, like it feels like a lot. But
Yeah.
that's kind of when you start realizing like, oh, I'm like making money for all these other people too.
Right.
And that's when it goes.
Interesting. And where do you now, because it kind of leads into my next question, because you kind of touched upon it. Like, where do you see the real estate, like the area that you're doing, like where do you see it going in the next 5 years? Like, do you think it's actually going to like do a great job or do amazing,
Yes, this is why we believe in Washington. So, if you think about the Seattle market, it's like we have Amazon, we have Microsoft, we have Google campuses, Facebook campuses, we have, Zillow, Redfin, like Boeing, like, there's a million huge companies headquartered out here. And it just so happens that they're mostly all software engineers that are based here. Like this is like the tech hub. So what that does to our market, and geographically, for people that don't know Seattle, there's an ocean on one side and then there's a mountain range right down the middle of the state. And so there's nowhere left to build in any of these Seattle pockets. Every single household that works for these big tech companies, it's a lot of the times they're dual software engineers. They're each making $300,000-400,000 a year. So, you're looking at these $600,000 to $800,000 households. Like all the houses in the market are like $2+ million.
Right.
So it's really brutal for affordability. Like Wallet Hub came out with a study for 2024 and said Washington State is the number one economy in the country. And they had all these buckets that they were stack ranking it on. It's also like the 6th least affordable state for home ownership. And so it's like you combine that with like, well, where are all these people supposed to go? And so this is our thesis: is we buy workforce housing. Like we buy these 1970s, 1980s vintage apartment buildings that are just median rents. So, and again, I know this is expensive for some parts of the country, it's not for others, but if a city that we buy deals in, a really nice brand new build, 2-bed, 1-bath, probably $3,500 a month for rent, somewhere in there. Our stuff is around 2,000, 2,200, and then the really, really cheap stuff, the really chunky stuff's like 1,200, 1,300, so like we're kind of playing in that middle space, but there's just a massive need for it. And everybody talks about housing shortages, but that's the problem in a lot of these, I just call them like COVID spree markets, like the Arizonas and the Texases and like there's so much development that can happen. It's urban sprawl. Like they could just keep building. There's so much space.
You should see New York.
Yeah. Well, yes, exactly. Right. If you think about the major pockets and there's just nowhere to go. Right. So it's like the stuff just gets more and more scarce. It becomes a bigger problem for people to find affordable housing. So, we really do feel like it's not just, we do love making money. We want to make money. We want to make money for our investors and our partners and all of this good stuff. But we also want to provide like really awesome places to live for these people that need it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day too, it does feel good, when we're taking over these buildings and we do a really good job managing them. And these people are super happy, and like their rent might go up a little bit every year, but they're super happy. Like it still is reasonable. They can still afford it. Like we're not gouging anybody. But at the end of the day, it's like they want somebody who's going to fix their fridge if it breaks. Like they want somebody that they can replace the heater in the winter the same day, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually was reading the other day a study that like apparently, basically most of the millionaires are all renting in New York because they can afford it. And it's like, just to give you understand, like renting in New York City with a I think it's 1 or 2 bedroom apartment is like $5,000 to $10,000 a month. And I'm like, dude, that's crazy. It's crazy.
It's absurd. Yeah, it's absurd. And like even just the economics of buying a house anymore, like it used to be this, like, it's the American dream to buy a house and then, pay it off over 30 years and that's your nest egg and all these things. And I'm like, but it never quite made sense to me, quite frankly, just because I was like, wait, your nest egg is your house. Like, where are you supposed to live? Like, if you can't use that money, like, to do anything for yourself, like, it's sitting there, it's equity, it's a safety net, I guess. It's cheap if you own it, but is it? Like, if a house is worth $1 million and it's just sitting there paid off, like, is that cheap? Like, if you could be making 8 or 10% a year on your money, your $1 million, like, I don't know, it feels to me like it's costing you 100 grand a year, like, to live in that house, like, it's like simple math. But then you look at it and you're like, wait, I don't know if this makes sense anymore at all. Like a $2 million house with 20% down is still 12 grand a month, in a mortgage, and your principal doesn't start getting knocked off for 6, 7 years. I'm like, this, I don't know, like, the math doesn't math so much anymore on that stuff. So to me, I'm like, I'm kicking around the idea of just renting and just putting all of my money into apartment deals, and I've always kind of been like this. You actually make money on your money. That's freedom,
Yeah. Yeah, I find that it's interesting because I know people, like, we look at New York, and I'm sure, I don't know if where your area is the same, but, like, people who can't afford it, sort of like, well, they all can't afford it because they're all like over $1 million, if not more. You know what I mean? Like, all the houses, just, in this whole area, the whole tri-state is just, it's going up and up and up, and it's crazy.
Totally. No, it's crazy, and it feels like, there are people that really value owning their own home, and I think that's great. Like, and again, there's no, like, one size fits all, but it's almost like, let those people buy the houses, and just let them be, and then accept that you're going to rent and structure your life around that, and then you go put your money to work.
Right. Exactly. Well, I love the questions that you asked, or the questions that you asked or answered rather. And I just love what you just said about just, housing. And, like, I love how you're passionate about helping people, just actually making, places to rent more affordable. And just, like, that's just kind of amazing, actually. Like, just especially in an area like yours where it's not so cheap to live, it's kind of like, it makes such a big deal and actually makes people want to move there or stay there longer or whatever. And I think, we need that, like, all over the world, because that's just, here it's a little crazy, especially in New York City, over here by you. I'm sure a lot of other states are like this too, but it's kind of wild to me.
It is, yeah. And I think it's just, you can truly kind of hit both sides of the coin and, like, make money and also give people a good place to live. And it is possible. Like, we're doing it. We've got 300 units or so of these things, and it's working. So we're just going to keep on that charge.
Awesome. So I guess before we end, because I know we're getting close to it, I would love to hear, like, some people that you've helped, or, like, you felt like, some successes that you've had in the company that you're doing, but also what rewards you got from that in terms of, like, not, like, obviously money, but, like, just things that you felt like, wow, this was, like, an amazing thing I did.
I think the thing that hit me, so I've done, before Veritas, we founded Veritas, I had done a couple of deals with friends putting their money in just because they wanted to get into apartment deals, right? Like, I wasn't a business for me. They just knew I was in apartment deals. And those deals, when I made money for other people, way more fulfilling for me than when I made money for myself.
Right.
It just felt amazing. And so now that's kind of a beautiful thing with Veritas, is giving people an opportunity to put their money into, like, true commercial real estate directly, like, not through a REIT, like, not through a blind fund, like, nothing that is typically available to people, but for them to be able to drive by an apartment building and say, like, I own 10% of that, or whatever. And there's a lot of pride that comes in that. And then we perform for them and they make money. So, that's been a huge, like, win for me, is seeing that as, like, a big motivator for me, is I love making money for other people.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that coin, again, serving the tenants. Like, when we get to tour these buildings and go by them, and, current occupants come out and talk to us and figure out that we're the owners, and we hear time and time again, like, oh, we're so happy since you guys have bought it, like, since you've taken it over, like, we love it here, we're going to raise our kids here, or whatever it is, right? Like, it's super fulfilling to hear that too.
Great. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate the time you've given me to kind of ask questions about real estate. I think a lot of people who are curious or want to know more about what we do, I think you've helped answer a lot of those questions, and how they can actually get into it, or how to run it more properly, or whichever.
Yeah.
So I guess before we close here, I'm very curious, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to, get in touch with you, or, like, want to know more about your company and how you roll with things. Where is the best place people can reach you and find you?
Yeah, our website. So veritasequitypartners.com. That's the best place.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate it. I think this was an amazing interview. I love talking to you. I think you are a great guest that I had here. I've had a lot of people, and you're definitely a first for me for like just going into real estate and just really diving into that area. So I really appreciate the time you've given us, especially the people who are listening. And if you guys, of course, like this stuff, please like and subscribe, and definitely check us out. Check out Alex. Alex is the man for real estate. Especially if you're in that area too. So
for sure. Yeah. No, thanks, Josh. This was great.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for joining the show, and Alex, it was a pleasure.
Thank you.